so much for joining me. If you haven't been here before, my name is Tracy and this is a DIY upcycling channel. And today I want to take this old nightgown that I got on eBay as is, and I got a really good deal on it because it has a few little stains, but that won't be a problem for this project. I want to create kind of a beachy duster, kimono, topper, cover up, whatever you want to call it. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is sort of prep this for later by cutting a little bit of the sleeves off. I am measuring up from the bottom of the sleeve, bottom of that lace, 2.5 inches, and I'm going to mark all the way around and cut that amount off. The next thing I want to do is just add some patches. I have 6 here and they're pretty good size. The elements that I'm going to be adding to this are pieced together scraps from my stash. And so I want to tie that look in with the rest of the gown by giving it a little bit of a patchwork look. Here are some pieces that I have. Because my nightgown is so thin, I tried to stay gauzy and thin with almost everything I'm using on it. This one's a little thicker, but I didn't even use bed sheet because that's even thicker, so much thicker than my gown. So I tried to stay lightweight with my pieces. Now on the front, I think I'm just going to start with 3. Pin them on. I'm going to slide my little cutting mat in between the pieces of fabric so I can pin them easily. Now on the back, I have one here, here, and a little lacy heart right here. Here's the placement of my patches. I stuck a little one there because of a stain. My gown is open with just a 2-button closure, so that's perfect for this project. But if you have more of a house coat or something, but if you just have a solid nightgown, you can cut it right up the center and do the same thing. This one has a lot of pleating going on, so it should be nice and flowy like I want. But if yours doesn't have all that pleating, you can always add triangle inserts to the side or one up the center to give it more of the A-line shape. Now I'm going to go sew all my patches on with like a medium width zigzag stitch, staying close to the edges using white thread because I'm actually not dyeing this one. Now I have a stack of strips of fabric that I cut from lightweight and lace pieces that I have in my scrap pile. I wanted them as long as I could, but some of them are shorter. I mean, really short. And they're about, I'd say 2.5 to 4 inches tall. They're just random. My plan with those strips of fabric are to do rows of layers around sort of the bottom half of this. And I'll start in the front at one end. And I'll take one of the strips and I will pinch pleat it. I'll give you a little closer up of how I'm pinch pleating it. I want it fairly ruffly. So I'll pinch pleat. When I run out of one, I'll grab a different one, overlap it maybe an inch, and keep going. I'm starting at the bottom. So I don't want them in straight rows. So this is just free artistry. Do whatever you want. I want them to kind of come up and do different things. And then when I get one row done, I'll start with another until I feel that I have enough. And real quick, I am not adding a ruffle to the very bottom because I had a different plan, a wider ruffle for that one. So I'm staying above that bottom hem. And I think I'll use a zigzag stitch. There's the first row. Now this garment will be tattered and frayed, some raw edges, seams on the outside, and that's what I want. And here's my second row. And if you make something like this, please do not overthink your ruffles. They are so forgiving and pretty. Don't overthink the materials, the placement. Just throw them on there. I think I'm good with ruffles for now. I could always add more if I want. Now I want to add a 6-inch ruffle at the very bottom. So the perimeter of my gown is 77 inches. I sewed a bunch of lightweight fabrics and lace together to create a strip that is 140 inches long and 6 inches tall. And I sewed wrong sides together so that the seams are on the outside, and I did a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to show you quickly how I'm going to sew this on. So this is the bottom. This is where it opens in the front. I'm going to start at the bottom of one side and overlap it about 1/2 inch, starting at the corner, and I will pinch pleat that. A fairly generous amount, maybe every couple inches, 1/2 inch over. This I always feel out when I'm at my machine to see what the ruffles are looking like. And I will go all the way around. These are raw. You know, you could always finish it with a zigzag stitch or serger, but I'm leaving it. If I don't have enough, I can just easily add more to my strip. And I'm using a zigzag stitch again. There's that bottom ruffle. Now on this one, and this one only, I ran a zigzag stitch very close to the bottom edge to stop excessive fraying. It will still fray a little bit below that zigzag stitch. Now I want to make some flared sleeves for the arms. So I had to make a pattern, and to make the pattern, the first thing I had to do was measure how far across this sleeve is now from one end to the other, and mine is 7.5 inches. So I took that 7.5 inches and added an inch for seam allowance and a little extra room, and that's how I got the measurement at the top of this triangle. I wanted to add 12 inches to my sleeve. That's just from playing with a yardstick and seeing where I want my sleeve to hit. And I want it about 20 inches across, which in total it'll be 40 inches in perimeter, diameter. Then I made 4 varying pieces big enough to fit my pattern. I cut the other 3 out already, and I'll show you those in a second. But I did seams on the outside, wrong sides together, just big enough to fit that. And here are the other 3 that I made and cut out already. So now I'm going to trace this and cut it out as well. Now I have my 4 pieces. I'm going to put wrong sides together, which the seam on the outside is actually the right side for me. And then I'm going to go to my machine and start at the bottom, sew up the side, 1/4 inch seam allowance, straight stitch. Come over, I won't even have to pin these. Come to the other side and do the same thing. Now what I want to do is add a little ruffle to the bottom of each of these sleeves. Okay, here's a little ruffle that I made yesterday. It's so cute. It's 2 inches tall, and this is what I'll use on the bottom of the sleeves. And I have seams on the outside. On this one, I tried to find pieces of fabric that already had finished bottoms. That way I don't have to do anything and it won't have excessive fraying. So the perimeter of the 2 sleeves total is 76 inches. And this fabric roll, ruffle roll, is 144 inches. And I am going to take each one of these to my machine and just add the ruffle like I did on the duster over there. I'll probably start over at the side, overlap this one maybe 1/4 to 1/2 an inch. Usually it's right in between there. And then I will pleat that as I sew along. If I run out, I can always add more. And I will use a zigzag stitch on this. And when I get to the end, forgot to mention this, I'm just going to overlap about 1.5 inches. That way I don't have to piece anything together. I'm keeping this one as simple as I can. Here's what the ruffles look like. So cute. And now I want to add the sleeves to the arms of the duster. Now, we're looking at one of the sleeves. I have my gown inside out because I want wrong sides together, seam on the outside for this. And then I'm going to take my sleeve that we made, and it is right side out. That will make it so that the wrong sides are together when I sew. So I'm going to the seam that I put into this sleeve, and I want to make sure one of these seams lines up with the seam at the bottom of the short sleeve. So now I'm going to pull this through and line up the bottom of the short sleeve and the new sleeve, pinning together that side seam. And then I will just pin it all the way around. And they almost always fit like this. It seems like the one I made would be a little bit bigger, but you can work that in there pretty nicely. And if it doesn't, a little pleating on the one we made is not going to hurt a thing. Now that I have both armholes all pinned, I am going to sew them together with a straight stitch and a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now I have my duster inside out, and I'm pressing those seams that we just made. And now I want to try something I've never done but always have wanted to, and that's to make a cool sort of roomy hood for it. All the tutorials that I've looked at kind of confuse me, seem hard, and I'm not into like tedious, difficult sewing. So I made my own pattern using the hood from this robe, and I didn't even have to cut it up, and I'll show you what I did. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Fingers crossed. Okay, so this is the hood of my robe. I folded it in half. There's a seam right here. So I folded that in half the best I could right on that seam. And then there's a seam right here. It's kind of shaped like this. I lined that up as well. Just smooth it out the best I could. I'm using packing paper, but wrapping paper is great for big patterns as well. And I traced 1/2 inch outside of the hood. And when I got to this seam, I came 1/2 inch down. So I'll show you how I did this one, because I did not want to cut this robe. That would have been easier, but this is one of my favorite go-to robes. It's so cozy, it's almost like a big jacket. Okay, so when I got to this seam, I came down 1/2 inch and I kind of eyeballed this, kind of looking under. Same over here, because that curve is going to be important to fit it onto the neckline. So I just sort of created that. It actually, mine is more shaped a little curvier than the one I just drew. So next what I did, I needed 2 pieces of fabric because I need 2 of these pattern pieces. And I pieced together my own using the scraps from my scrap basket. Now these each will fit one side of this pattern. All I'm going to do now is trace around this. And when I do the other one, I have to flip this way, trace around, and cut it out. Now I want to sew these together. So I'm going to put wrong sides together, seam on the outside, and this is the back and top of the hood. So I'm going to pin all along here, and then I will sew that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, this is how I think I figured the easiest way to do this. So my hood is right side out. I'm going to kind of drape it over my mannequin. I'm going to pin it. See the little lace right along here? I'm going to pin it just underneath of that lace. So I'm going to lay it like this, kind of drape it forward. Now I'm going to the back. I'm going to find the center of my hood, the center of my duster, and I'm going to just pin that on the outside. And now the rest I'll pin all the way over till I get to the front. Here's the V in the front of the neckline. I'm just still pinning all the way down. I think I'll stop at this line and trim any extra that I might have. I'm going to go to my machine now and I'm going to zigzag stitch this. So right in front, I did have to trim some to make it fit in there. So I'll come across here, up and around, around, back down the front and over. I mean, can it really be that easy? We'll see how it fits when I'm done. Worked. I might have wanted it a little bit bigger, but what I'm going to do now is I have this just kind of lacy trim. I'm going to zigzag stitch this right over top of that raw edge just to clean everything up and finish it off. So I think the last thing I want to do is I have some fringe that looks like this. It's kind of short. I am going to sew it down both sides of the front and around the hat, the hood. So down the front sides, these are my 2 buttons. It only has 2 buttons. I'm going to take my fringe and I'll fold it over a little bit at the top. And here are my buttonholes. I am going to sew it right at the edge outside of those buttonholes, all the way down the front with the fringe facing out. And then I will do the same on the side with the buttons. Then I'm also going to sew it on the hood. Once I get done with these, I'm going to bring this over and start at the bottom of the hood, sew at the very edge, overlapping oh, quarter to half an inch all the way around. All done sewing. I mean, an old nightgown, stained up old nightgown, and some scraps. And this is what we got. So fun. I'm going to go throw it in the washer and dryer. Let that washer and dryer get all that fraying happening. And then I'll trim up any excess, put it on, and show you what it looks like. All done. I'm going with a barefoot on the beach look. You could wear it with jeans. It would be really cute, and some sandals, some cutoff shorts, a skirt, a dress. I'm wearing it with, this was actually a beach cover up from Target that I never wore because it was real frumpy. So I shortened it, shortened the straps, added a little lace at the bottom, a little lace right here. And now it's going to be an awesome layering piece. The inside, nice and clean, no raw seams. And that's the beauty of boho or log and look or cottagecore, is you can have intentional seams on the outside to add detail, a little frame, and still have the inside nice and clean if you don't have a serger or don't want to take the time to finish those seams. Okay, I'm going to bring it in a little bit so you can see more of the details, and I thank you so much for watching.